Vasudevaya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshva Manteshu Nityam Bhagavata Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Itam Madhishyana Charan Madhyantaya Svanvavai Shadra Kangavam Yam Vishikesha Vishat. After thus instructing the king, the Supreme Personality of Godhead immediately disappeared. Then King Satyavata began to wait for that time which the Lord had instructed. Astir Yadavam Kakulam Kachakshi Lakudam Nishasabhari Padam Shintyam Manshakuna. After spreading Kusa with its tips pointing east, the saintly king, himself facing the northeast, sat down on the grass and began to meditate upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, where the Syonta form of a fish. Samudra Utvela Sarvata Pava Yamahim Vardamana Mahamikya Vashtampi Samavishyata. Thereafter, gigantic clouds pouring incessant waters filled the ocean more and more. And thus the ocean began to overflow into the land and inundate the entire world. Dayam Bhagavatam 8.24.46 Tam Aporavikranda Adasya Sadivinoda. As Satyavata, the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he saw a boat coming near him. Thus he collected herbs and vapors, and accompanied by saintly Brahmins, he got aboard the boat. Tamujya Munaya Kritam Rachandhyaya Svakeshavam Savainam Shankata Asmat Avitam Samvidasati. The saintly Brahmins being pleased with the king, said to him, O king, please meditate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Ishvara. He will save us from impending danger and aims for our well-being. Sunudyatas tato vacham Prabhupada Ekashinyana Macho Then while the king constantly meditated upon the Supreme Personality of God, a large golden fish appeared in the ocean of inundation. The fish had one horn and was 8 million miles long. Nipatyama Kunta Shinge Yatokto Ainatura Vagatrana Nina Tustas Tustavamatusura. Following the instructions formally given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the king entered the boat to the fish's horn, using the serpent Vasudevaya as a rope Thus being satisfied, he began offering praise to the Lord. Text 46, which we will recite together. Srila
The king offered prayers as follows. He offered prayers as follows. Anadi, from time immemorial. From time immemorial. Avidya. By ignorance. Upasa has been lost. Knowledge about the self. That is Mula, the root, Samsara, material bondage, Parishama, full of miserable conditions and hard work, full of miserable conditions and hard work, Asura, suffering, Yasrishaya, by the Supreme Lord, by the Supreme Upasvita, being favored by the Acharya, Yam, the Supreme Personality of God, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Apnu, Janati, Vimuktida, the process of liberation, Namaha, Paramaha, the Supreme, Guru, Spiritual Master, your Lordship, translation of Prabhupada 18 Bhakti Prabhava Swami, Srila Prabhupada, the King says, by the grace of the Lord, those who have lost their self-knowledge stand in the moment, and who, because of this ignorance, are involved in a material condition of life, full of misery, obtain a chance to meet the Lord of their food. I accept the Supreme Personality of God as the Supreme Spiritual Master. We should be. The King said, by the grace of the Lord, those who have lost their self-knowledge, in time memorial, and who because of this ignorance, are involved in a material condition of life full of misery. Obtain a chance to meet the Lord of the I accept the Supreme Personality of God. The Supreme Spiritual Master. The Supreme Personality of God is actually the Supreme Spiritual Master. The Supreme Lord knows everything about the suffering of the conditioned soul, and therefore he appears in this material world, sometimes personally, sometimes by incarnation, and sometimes by authorizing a living being to act on his behalf. In all cases, however, he is the original spiritual master who enlightens the conditioned souls while suffering in the material world. The Lord is always busy helping the conditioned souls in many ways. Therefore, he is addressed here as Paramago Bhagavan, representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who acts to spread Krishna consciousness, is also guided by the Supreme Lord to act properly in executing the Lord's order. Such a person may appear to be an ordinary human being, but because he acts on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Spiritual Master, is not to be neglected as ordinary. It is therefore said, Acharya man pitaniya, an Acharya who acts on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead should be understood to be as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Saksadaritana samaste sastre tasthata bhaktyata sati kintu prabhuya piyai vatasya pande krochi chanam. Iskcon Ujjain is advised that the spiritual master acting on the Supreme Lord's behalf must be worshipped as good as the Supreme Lord, for he is the Lord's most confidential servant in broadcasting the Lord's message for the benefit of the conditioned souls involved in the material world. Oh my God, Chaitanya Manobishtam Sanktam Yena Bhutale Shvam Gadamayam Dadati Svapadam Sikam Vandeyam Shivu Shiyuda Patkam Shigum Vaishnavam Sam Shirupam Yagatatam Sagana Raghunatam Katam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijanata Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sakam Gita Shivchakam Vitam Sham He Krishna Guna Sindhu Dina Bhagavatyatpate Gopesha Gopka Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kansana Gaurangi Adevi Navaneshwe Vishavanis Devi Kanamama Haripriye Panka Kautra Visha Kripasan Vaivasha Padmam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namo Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavina Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesa Samyavadi Paskachaya Desatarane Srila Prabhupada Ki. Yesterday I was hearing a class of Guru Maharaj from these verses. And he spoke on these verses in 1986 in Heidelberg. I know he was in Heidelberg, and he tried also sometimes to give classes in German, interesting, with the basic knowledge he had. But he tried great. But 1986, Guru Maharaj joined Mayapur in 1977. No, 76, I think, 76. So he was a devotee for less than 10 years. But if you hear that lecture, you feel how deep his insights are. Because Srila Prabhupada had given him the instruction to translate the Srimad Bhagavatam and all his books in Bengali. And by this translation work, or the intense translation work, he got a lot of mercy. You have to check every Sanskrit word, every word that, he had also Guru Maharaj instructed us. Nobody can do it, but anyway, instructed us. Before you come to the class, the day before, you should look at a verse that you will discuss and memorize the verse. Before class. So that's what he did when he was translating. He was memorizing them. It is amazing that, but that's the standard he expects from us. We are not there, but can try our best at least to read the verse before, so that, and the purport, so that we have questions and so on. Now, Guru Maharaj make 2 points here. That I'll first speak on the second point. Here, King Satyavata said, I accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the Supreme Spiritual Master. He is the Supreme Spiritual Master. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada speaks about Saksa Daritvanasa Master Shastra. The Spiritual Master is representative of the Supreme Lord and must be given the same honor, but because he does the most magnificent job, which is broadcasting the Lord's message for the benefit of everyone in this world. And Guru Maharaj loved this verse, Tavakatamritam tapta jivyanam kavivrititam kaumasapaham Shravanamangalam Srimata tadam bhuvijinnanti ye bhuvidakyana. This is the gopis who sing the most magnanimous person in this world, who is Bhuvijan, who gives this message, who speaks this message for the benefit of everyone. These are the greatest personalities. Of course, Krishna says that also in Bhagavad Gita. After Sarvadamam Parichayam Mahamakam Samvacham Kamsarapavyam Chishyamimaksa, he says then one who studies this sacred dialogue between Arjuna and myself. Krishna says, he worshipped me with his intelligence. And one should explain the secret of devotional service to my devotees and not to those who are not austere, those who are receptive. And Krishna says there is no one more dear than me, than such a person. So it is here said, Kinta Pabo Yapriya Vatasya. There's no one more dear to Krishna than the spiritual master who spread this knowledge of bhakti. There is no one more dear. Yes, and Guru Maharaj explains in his lecture, yes, who is a Guru? A Guru, he explains, of course he refers to Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya who said, a Guru is one who knows the signs of Krishna consciousness. It doesn't matter whether he's a Sudra, a Brahman, or a Vaishya, or a Kshatriya, or a Brahmachari, or a Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas, man or woman. One who knows the signs of Krishna consciousness is a Guru. But one can only know the signs of Krishna consciousness through the authorized line of disciplic succession. And the first in the line of disciplic succession is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, and then Guru Maharaj continues to explain, yes, the first in the line is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then he explains how Lord Brahma gets his knowledge. And he goes to explain that Brahma is Adya, is not born from a mother, is born from the lotus flower of Karpodakasai Vishnu. And after his birth, it was dark. After his birth, it was dark in the universe. He was sitting on this lotus flower. It was like a storm. It was dark. The lotus was going from one side to another. And Brahma was thinking, where do I come from? Why am I here? And he tried to find its origin. He dove into the stem of the lotus flower. And he went down that stem for thousands of years to find its origin. But he could not find. He had to come back. And then he heard the word tapa, austerity. Then on the lotus flower, he started to do austerities. And after many celestial years of austerities, the Lord appeared before him. And he gave him the Gayatri mantra. He started to chant his Gayatri mantra. And the Gayatri mantra produced all the Vedas. That's how Brahma got the Vedas. And then he understood, by hearing the Vedas, he got what here is explained, self-knowledge. He understood that I'm coming from the spiritual world, I'm a spirit soul, and the Lord wants me to help with the creation. So he understood his position as the servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's how Brahma got his knowledge. And Brahma gave this knowledge to Narada, his son, and Narada to Vyas. From Vyas it came down to many spiritual masters, to Madhavendra Puri, and then to Ishvara Puri, the spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya, Krishna himself. He gave it to the 6 Goswamis, and then, Shiva Goswami had disciples, and many other disciples that narrowed down, he instructed narrowed down Das, Thakur, and Shyamananda, and Srinivas. Then it came further down, finally, to, the Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Krishnadas Kaviraj, of course, then Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and Baladev, and then we come to Charanadas Babaji, that Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Gaura Kishore Das Babaji, Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, that how this knowledge came down. So that's the second point, Guru Maharaj explained. So the first point was the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the original spiritual master. The second, how Brahma got the knowledge and how it came down. And the third point he explained, and that's very important for us to understand and realize. He speaks about the ignorance that causes conditioned life. So originally we come from the spiritual world. So we have a gross and subtle body. In Bhagavad Gita is said, Bhumira Panalabhayakam, Manabudrev Shankam, Vichame Bina Bhagatyastita, 7 material material energies, earth, air, ether, water, fire, and then mind, intelligence, false ego. But then Krishna says that apariyamitatvam ye pragatim vidimeparam, beyond there is the superior energy. So we belong to the superior energy as a spirit soul. And the material energy is inferior energy. Superior and inferior. And Guru Maharaj said it is naturally that one who belongs to the superior energy to try to control the inferior energy. And that is what happened. We became attracted some way or another to the material energy. And we wanted to enjoy this material energy. And the desire to enjoy comes up. And then then the spirit soul wants to enjoy material energy. It starts to make plans for it. And that activity, that creates a subtle body of mind intelligence. False ego has no existence as an energy which is separate from this mind and this intelligence. It is a result of contaminated mind and intelligence. So intelligence means misusing your intelligence to enjoy and dominate material energy. And the mind is filled with these desires. But of course, then by that, a subtle body is created. But to enjoy to the full extent the material energy, you need a gross body. So the gross body grows upon the subtle body. So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains that we are the super soul as Paramatma knows the desires of the living entity. So knows the contamination of the subtle body. And it brings the soul which is imprisoned to 7 airs within this subtle body. As the super soul brings this at the time of death to the next destination, to the womb of a mother, where this gross body is produced upon the subtle body. But the form of your next body is already there in the subtle form. It's a bit like you make, Guru Maharaj explained, you make a skyscraper. First they build the skeleton, all the metal construction, and fill it up with concrete, and then fill it up, but the skeleton is already there. So that's a subtle body. It's already there. So that's our condition. That's how we become conditioned. This conditioned is because of ignorance, avidya. This avidya has 5 forms, and Brahma had to create them with these 5 forms of ignorance before creating living entities. That's the beginning of the Visarga, the secondary creation by Brahma. Now, I will explain you this in a different way, because it's important to understand this. And because that will be discussed in the verse of tomorrow, the results of all of that. And that's not good. But in short, Prabhupada said, yes, we have a hand. This hand, you see the gross hand and arm. But beneath the gross hand and arm, there is a subtle arm and hand. The subtle body is also there. And beneath is the spiritual arm and senses. So three levels. Why is that? I try to explain it in an other way. I don't want to go in the fall of the Jiva, but it is just for your understanding. In the spiritual world, the spirit soul has a form, a spiritual body. I'm jumping now to 1745 Bhagavatam purport. This purport explains the meditation of Srila Vyasadeva, from which the whole Bhagavatam expands. And in that purpose, it's verse 4 or 5, I don't exactly, but Srila Prabhupada said, and that's an interesting sentence, the spirit soul as is, or the living entity, he says, has its own thinking, feeling, willing in the unconditioned state also. Unconditioned state is the state of the spirit soul in the spiritual world. Has its own thinking, feeling and willing, and its own intelligence. And that's all part of the spiritual body, one. Satchitananda. But if you try with the spiritual body to exploit material energy, the truth is you cannot do that with the spiritual body because it's not made for that. You cannot do it. But if you desire it, Krishna creates this subtle body. And you get a separate material intelligence, a separate mind fulfilled with these desires. Because we are not capable to do that with a spiritual body. So Krishna gives us a separate body, and we are going to identify with that body, which is illusion. So that means the thinking, feeling and willing that we experience is separate from our real existence. The soul, what does the soul do? Desire. And with that desire, we are, and the intelligence according to this desire, we are directing our material, feeling, willing, and thinking. But factually, this is done by the super soul. This is deep knowledge. That I can go in that deeper, but it means what I want you to remember here, that is that the thinking, feeling and willing on a material platform is done by the subtle body. And this separate thinking, feeling, willing and separate intelligence is based on identifying with the body. And that's based on avidya. And the first level of avidya is tamas. And tamas means we have forgotten Krishna. We have turned away from Krishna and forgotten him. We have turned away Guru Maharaj. And we forget him. But Krishna is the supreme enjoyer and the supreme proprietor of everything. Bhaktaram Shakatapasam Sarvalokamasharam Sridam Sarvabhutnam Yatfamam Santimrichati. He is the supreme proprietor. He is the supreme enjoyer. Because he's the proprietor of everything, he has the right to enjoy. Right? And we forget that. And what's the result? The next level after Dhamma, forgetting Krishna, there comes Moha. Moha means we forget ourselves, our real self, and we accept a false self as the enjoyer. And that's avidya. We put ourselves in the center. as the enjoyer. And then there comes the third level of avidya. It's called Mahamoya. Mahamoya means this is mine for my enjoyment. So that's the avidya which is in the material intelligence. This is for my enjoyment. And in the verse of tomorrow we will hear the results of that. And that it brings up a fourth level. A fourth level. It's called tamishra, suffering. Because we identify with the body, we feel the pain and so on. We think, I'm suffering. But this is a sentiment in the mind. The soul cannot suffer. It's because we identify with this subtle body. And the identification with the subtle body is strong. And then from that a fifth illusion comes, Anda Tamishra. I'm going to die. Then everything is finished. Like Professor Kotovsky. Professor Kotovsky said that Swamiji, after death, everything is finished. Nothing more. He was a specialist in the Vedas. That was his conclusion. But Srila Prabhupada has given him mercy. I'm a preacher in the Ukraine. 15 years every year. Few months I've been in the Ukraine. And one time I was in Lviv. Lviv is a city in West Ukraine near to Poland. And a devotee was driving me from the apartment where I was staying to the temple. You know what he said to me? I'm the grandson of Professor Potofsky. He became a devotee. That's immeasurable. It was surprising. But anyway, Srila Prabhupada must have given him some mercy. But yes, these 5 illusions are there. And we must get out of this illusion, this avidya. Because of this illusion we suffer. So suffering is due to false knowledge. The idea that I'm this body, and this idea is there. We identify with the body because we think we are the enjoyer and the proprietor of things, which is Krishna. So our self-knowledge is lost. And that's what the verse says. Those who have lost their self-knowledge don't know who they are. People do not know in this world who they are. And the Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita clearly points out who we are. Mamai Bamse Jivedo Ke Jiva Bhutta Sanatana. We are part and parcel of Krishna. We are meant to be Satchitananda, full of knowledge, full of bliss, full of happiness, but now we are experiencing the opposite. That full of suffering, and we think we are going to die. So, but if one is liberated, Shivan Mukta, what's the symptom? Shivan Mukta means you don't identify with the body. You identify yourself as a servant of Krishna. And By the purpose of devotional service, this ignorance shall be removed, and your suffering is removed. So one who is liberated does not suffer anymore, even within the body. Because one is liberated, has killed or transformed, better to say transformed, the subtle body and has spiritualized it. And then you regain your own thinking, feeling and willing, your own memory and so on. Also your memory that we see that King Bharat, he had newly developed prema, was on Baba. He was beyond the liberated position. Okay, he was diverted by a deer, which is normally does not happen, very exceptional. One chance of trillions that you get such a position, but it happened. And Krishna wants us to show something. But he was still liberated. He got the body of a deer. There was still some subtle contamination. He got that body, but he got his spiritual intelligence. He went back to the place where to his ashram, was hearing from the sages until the end of the life of the deer. And he remembered his previous life. His spiritual memory was intact. And in the life thereafter, it's just about the same thing. We have also Narada Muni. He tells about his previous life. How can he remember? So this is our own thinking, feeling, willing that we have lost. But by this transcendental knowledge coming to the Guru Parampara, we get back our self-knowledge. And then, if you know who you are, then you can act according to who you are. Our time is up. Any question? Yes?
Thank you for wonderful explanation about the body. My question was, just now it was like Bharat Maharaj said the body of the deer, still he was liberated. But we see that even after giving up the body of deer, he again got one body of human. My question is whether it is whether it is compulsory to get human form, then only you will be transferred to spiritual world. But directly we cannot, like from deer body.
It's up to us that, yes, Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj said, yes, because Rupa Goswami says, and Srila Prabhupada quotes that from Nectar of Devotion, the process of devotional service goes mostly over many births. And Srila Prabhupada said also sometimes, yeah, you are a devotee in this life because you were a devotee in previous life. But on other occasions that a devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, how did we get the mercy to become devotees in this life? What is the Ajnata Sukriti that we have done? And Srila Prabhupada said, I'm your Ajnata Sukriti. So that's the position of the pure devotee. He can give this knowledge to everyone that according to his desire. Yes. But Srila Bhaktivinoda Saraswati Maharaj said also to his disciples, you make it in this life. How can we make it in this life? What is the shortcut to make it in this life? That's the question. Srila Prabhupada gave us the shortcut. Because Lord Krishna says there is no one more dear than the preacher of Krishna consciousness. And Srila Prabhupada gave us this mission. You surrender to this mission and you try to give Krishna consciousness to others. And that's a spiritual law. On the material law means you give Krishna consciousness to others. But the material law is you give something to others and you get rid of it. But the spiritual law is you give Krishna consciousness to others and Krishna gives it you to the heart. And that's the secret. Just surrender to Srila Prabhupada's mission. Try to give this knowledge to others and help them to become devotees. And you don't have to worry about going back to Godhead. Because to go back to Godhead, you must become pure in your desire. And what I'm going to say may seem contradictory, but it is not. That complete surrender to Krishna means saying to Krishna, I'm your servant, please engage me birth after birth after birth. It doesn't matter. I just want to serve you. There's no desire for liberation. I just want to serve you. The only benediction I ask is that I never may forget your lotus feet. So that's pure devotional service. Then you are not concerned about going back to Godhead. Because the desire for liberation is the desire to get freedom from suffering. But we have just explained that this suffering is an illusion. So it's a material desire. Anyway, that's deeper knowledge. In the beginning, if we come to this movement, it's not with that idea mostly. But that's the point. We want to just to please Krishna, and that he does with us what he wants, good or bad, is his mercy. Hare Krishna. Does that help? That answer your question? Okay. Yeah, last question.
That kind of question you mentioned about Narayana and the body of the deer, how they remember their past. So my question is, somebody remembers his past based on the body which alive, or it is just depending on the need of the body?
In the conditioned state, we don't remember. That's what Lord Krishna says in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. He says to Arjuna, the difference between you and me is the previous lives. That it's very difficult. But of course, spiritual remembrance is done by the spiritual body. Narada Muni got a spiritual body, and therefore his remembrance, it became Trikalagya in you, past, present, and future. And that's our normal situation on the spiritual platform. It's not a problem. But like you said, Bharat Maharaj is a bit between. He was above the platform of liberation, but in Madhurya Kandambini, these are again deeper details. normally not for beginners, but it's there in Ruchi, Asakti, even up to Bhava. There is still a small, some identification with the body. It's very, very light. And therefore, unless you have prema, you may accept another body. Yeah. Anyway, that you may accept. It's up to Krishna. Because normally, when you come Madhyam Adhikar, which is liberated platform, Nishtha, Asakti and so on, you don't take birth again, no ordinary birth again. You may take birth in Krishna's pastimes. So normally we don't remember, we forget our past life, that's what Krishna says. But those who are spiritual advanced, Krishna favors them. And if you get a spiritual body, then you don't forget. Good, thank you very much. Chandra Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. Srila Prabhupada ki.